What do we call this segment now? Because playoff tiers, man, does the label fit? Sure. Is it boring? Yeah, I think it's probably a little bit boring for what this segment probably should call for. We're changing the name. Got a lot of good input from y'all. Talked about it with Video Row. We're changing this segment's name to Hotel Playoff. All right, so you got the Playoff Penthouse, top level of the hotel. You're feeling good. You're feeling good about where you're standing in the college football playoff outlook. We have the lobby, or as we used to call it, Bubble Central. So you're still in the building. Do you have a reservation, or are you in the hotel room? Are you feeling good about yourself for the playoff? Not necessarily, but you're right at the front desk. You have a chance. We'll see. And then you have waiting for a reservation. So this is, you're not even in the lobby. You are like, hey, we need some things to break our way here. We're not 100% sure about them making the college football playoff as it stands right now. And then, as always, we check in on our folks out in G5 country and take a look over at the G5 party. And they don't care about the hotel playoff, man. They're just having a good time. They know if they are the team from the G5, they will have a reservation, they will walk into their room, and they will enjoy themselves in the playoff penthouse. So we'll break that down together right now. Little backstory on this, too. I get asked this question every now and then from some of y'all that DM me on Instagram and ask, like, hey, how'd you, get into sports media? Like, hey, I'm a junior in college, I'm a high school, whatever. Like, I want to find a way to get into sports media. What did you study? And my unfortunate answer there is I studied hotel administration. So absolutely zero to do with my college education is what I'm doing now. But regardless, feel like it's an appropriate way for us to maybe tie in some hotel themes into what we do right now in talking about the greatest sport on the face of planet Earth. So let's start here. Who right now would you say is in the playoff penthouse? Note, this is not predictions. This is more so where things stand. So think of it more as this is who's in the playoff penthouse right now, this far into the season. This is who we feel good about. Will they be there? I don't know, man. I don't know. Your rent's due every day in the playoff penthouse. Alabama, they are very firmly in the playoff penthouse, have the best win of the season under their belt. I think they're the best team right now in college football. I'm not saying anything about Texas, not saying anything about Georgia. I don't know how you stop that offense. Like when Jalen Milroe is spinning it how he was spinning it against Georgia. And I'm not just talking about the deep ball. I'm talking about like he's precise, he's accurate, he's on time. He's putting the ball not just to the right player, but in the right spot. Like it's the right placement of the football. They're darn near undefendable. And Ryan Williams is a massive part of that. But whenever you have a quarterback who can just dismantle you with what they do on the ground as well, you put them in a major bind offensively. Because if you try and put extra numbers to stopping Jalen Milroe in that run game, well, guess who gets less attention? Guys like a Ryan Williams, who has proven what he can do. A Jeremy Bernard, who's proven what he can do. Like, there's too many weapons to not give extra attention to the pass game. So Alabama, they're going to be a tough out. Now, it very much so lies with Jalen Milroe being consistent, but they're going to be a very tough out. Georgia, yep, still in the playoff penthouse. JD, why? Because Georgia, I don't think, is losing 2 more football games this season. And again, this is not a projection, but if you tell me Georgia gets 2 more losses, I think they probably, or 1 more loss rather, I feel really good about them the rest of the way in the playoff penthouse. Now, the Ole Miss game will be what it is. The Texas game will be what it is. You got to split those two. Can't start slow, but I have a very difficult time believing this Georgia team, what they are right now moving into October, I think they'll trend upward. I don't think we'll see them consistently start slow. I think that Alabama game will wake them up a little bit. Still one of, if not the best roster in college football. Georgia, I know you lost. I know it doesn't feel good to have someone knock on your door and say, hey, are you moving out anytime soon with that loss to Bama? But no, Georgia still very firmly in the playoff penthouse as of right now. College football sickos, make sure you are subscribed right here to the On3 YouTube channel. It's college football, nothing but college football every single day, and we appreciate y'all being locked in. Want to make sure you know the hard count is brought to you by our friends over at Prize Picks. Prize Picks daily fantasy, made easy, easy to play, easy to withdraw what you win. When you use code HARDCOUNT now, $5 in lineups gets you $50 in promo funds. Now, we got to play for you a little bit later in this segment, so stay tuned, but we're on a heater right now. Said it before, we're on a heater, so if you want to fade us, do so at your own risk. If you want to tail us, let's get after it. All right, so again, code HARDCOUNT. We appreciate y'all using that, and we appreciate y'all being subscribed. Let's get after it. Now, Ohio State just beat Michigan State. Another situation where the box score probably looks a little bit more definitive than the actual win was. Ohio State, at the end of the day, they were Ohio State in this game, which is not a super novel analysis, but it's kind of the way that I feel about it. Ohio State, barring something wildly unforeseen, was not losing to Michigan State. Now, took a little bit to get revved up in that first half, ended up pulling away at the end of the first half, and they were what they were. Jeremiah Smith is an absolute action figure. I mean, him and Ryan Williams, man, what they're doing right now as true freshmen in college football is nothing short of remarkable. Jeremiah Smith had 2 ridiculous one-handed catches against Michigan State, one that made SportsCenter, I believe, with the touchdown. He's special. He's different. And I think with Ohio State, they now have, I believe, not 1 but 2 number 1 wide receivers on that offense between Emeka Egbuka and Jeremiah Smith. Not 1 but 2 RB1s with Quinshon Judkins and Trevion Henderson. And that's great. They got Iowa this week. Increased level of difficulty for the boys out there in Columbus. But we keep saying this, and I think this is 100% true. It will always be about Will Howard. It is right now. It will be going forward. At some point in time, he has to make the difference for you. Because when you match up with a Georgia, match up with an Alabama, there's going to be, I think, a even level of roster talent. Now, not to say that Ohio State won't own some of those matchups, but at some point in time, Will Howard will have to be the difference maker for you. And the fact that Kyle McCord wasn't last year is a big reason why he's at Syracuse right now. So we'll see what happens there with Ohio State. But Will Howard, it's going to come down to you, brother. I think they're in the playoff penthouse. Kansas State. Speaking of Will Howard, Kansas State, man, this is the only part of the playoff penthouse that is a little bit projection in nature. They beat the brakes off Oklahoma State. They got a bye this week. They're at Colorado, I believe, the next week. They're my pick to win the Big 12 right now. All right? Like they don't have to play Utah until that Big 12 title game. They should be favored in every game for them the rest of the season. Like, that's how strongly I feel about Kansas State. Avery Johnson is a game plan breaker. Even if there's a situation where you have the right play dialed up defensively, he can make the offense right. His legs are something you're going to have to deal with. And, man, I cannot wait to watch what they are the rest of the way. Again, next game is at Colorado. That'll be a good one, but Kansas State, I think, right now is my pick to win the Big 12. Therefore, they are in the playoff penthouse. No, Utah is massive. Miami, still in the playoff penthouse. And, yeah, the game against Va-Tech makes you a little bit nervous, right? You don't like to see your team play with their food, especially against a team that's 2-2. Now, I've gone on record and said this many times. I think Va-Tech has a case to be one of, if not the best, now 3-loss, but at that point, 2-loss team in all of college football. I think the thing with Miami going forward here is, okay, now how do you reset from that Va-Tech game? We said it yesterday, I'll say it again. Close wins where you play poorly ultimately can cause you to relax or can cause you to pick up the pace a little bit and have a greater sense of urgency. I think we see the latter this week from Miami. I also think that Cam Ward, his prize picks number is 298.5 pass yards. Y'all, Cam Ward has gone past that number every single game this season. So therefore, we'll take Cam Ward, more than 298.5 pass yards, feel great about doing so. Use code HARDCOUNT, $5 in lineups, gets you $50 in promo funds. Prize picks taking care of us, making sure we can take care of y'all, giving out our plays there. So go ahead and lock that one in. Miami, again, still very much so in the playoff penthouse. Big game this week at Cal, so we'll keep an eye on Miami. Texas, they're off this week. Had a nice little dub with the win over Mississippi State. It should be the Quinn Ewers show now going forward, like assuming he gets back healthy. And this is the next couple of weeks where you say, okay, this is the SEC. Like, this is the baptism, if you will. Not to say Texas hasn't had a schedule with some rigor to it. The Michigan win, obviously, is a big reason why some folks would say they're still the top team in America. They have Red River after the bye this week, and then they have Georgia coming to their place. So it's about to ramp up in a big way for Texas. The thing I'm curious about with them is how those veteran traits sustain them in those key spots. Because that's kind of been the key differentiating factor for teams that win the national championship. They have a very veteran, mature nature about themselves. Michigan last year, Georgia the year before that, and Georgia the year before that. So all things considered, Texas, the veteran nature of what they are, paired with the talent that they have, paired with who they have at quarterback, with Quinn Ewers, you feel pretty good about the Longhorns going forward. But again, we're going to learn a lot about them here after the bye this upcoming week. Now, here's one more for you. Tennessee. They were in the Penthouse after the win over Oklahoma. They were on a bye this past week. They go to Arkansas this week. I said it yesterday. I want to say it again. This is the kind of team now, if you're a Tennessee fan, you can feel confident taking home to your parents. What does that even mean? It means that Tennessee's not just an enjoyable team to have around. They're not just good company. They're not just fun to be around. Like this is a team now in Tennessee that has legitimately, they could be the one kind of characteristics. Because I think the offense, especially once Nico Iamaleava continues to trend upward and get his sea legs completely, they're going to be in real good shape. But it's the defense, man. It's the values. It's the character of the defense. Allowing 8.3 points per game, that is third in the entire country. They're allowing 2.8 yards per play. That is number one in all of college football. So it's not just they're fun to be around. It's you could see a life with them. You could see this team putting a ring on it. And we'll see that with Tennessee. But all in all, man, I think there's definitely a case for the Vols to be right there at the end of this thing when it comes to the college football playoff. So that's our penthouse when it comes to hotel playoff. Let's move out to the lobby. And for those of y'all that missed this, the lobby for us is essentially like you are in the building, you're in the hotel. Are you in playoff penthouse just yet? Not necessarily. But if you do what you're supposed to do, if you handle business, you should be able to get a reservation for the penthouse. And Oregon is a team that started the year in the penthouse. The Michigan State game on Friday will be intriguing because we've seen a couple of games now from Oregon where they're continuing to put it together. Beat the brakes off UCLA, beat the brakes off Oregon State. Okay, Oregon, have we gelled yet? Are we sure this is the team now that we thought they were in the preseason? If that's the case, they're going to find themselves back in the playoff penthouse. But if not, we're going to find out, I think, against some of their competition here in October. Should be noted, after the game on Friday, they host Ohio State October 12th. So lock in now. There's going to be a lot to be learned about the Ducks over the course of the next few weeks. Missouri, they went out of the lobby, man. And I don't blame it. Hey, if you're watching this in Columbia, Missouri, I hear you. I understand. The Tigers had a lot of expectations going into the season. The thing with Missouri now that concerns me is there have been multiple games in a row where they have played to the logo. Like, I love Boston College. I love Vanderbilt. They don't belong on the same field with Missouri. And Vandy took them to overtime. And Boston College was up, and Missouri had to surge to win the football game. So my concern now is I'm curious if they play to the logo. And if you play to the logo, well, look no further. You go to Texas A&M this week, baby. All right, so if logos are your deal, you got a big one coming up this Saturday. Are you able to just turn it on like that? Is that the situation where you're able to just flip a switch? Okay, bring your best football. Let's roll. That's nice, but I am a little bit concerned about playing to the logo. I said it before. It's like studying right before the exam. It works sometimes, but at the end of the day, like you do that enough times, you're going to get got. Does Missouri get got this week on the road at A&M? Remains to be seen. But if they win at A&M, if they can do so convincingly, maybe we see Missouri break out of the lobby and get themselves in the penthouse. I don't know. TBD. For USC, man, they're in the lobby. JD, they lost to Michigan. Did you see? I saw it. They allowed almost 300 yards rushing. I get it. I hear you. However, this is the new college football. USC is still very much so in the mix here. If USC wins out, they're in the dance. They are very much so in the dance. They're at Minnesota this week. They have a chance to make some noise now the week after. October 12th is just, stacked, brother. They're absolutely stacked October 12th. They host Penn State. And Penn State now, also in the lobby, you're going to learn a lot about both teams. So USC still in the mix, had a good win over Wisconsin this past weekend. Keep an eye on the Trojans. I know a lot of people want to get those takes out there about Lincoln Riley and the defense. Keep an eye on USC. That win over LSU was a massive, massive tone setter and a table setter for their road to the college football playoff. Now, speaking of Penn State, good win over Illinois. Would have liked to see them score a little bit more. That would have been ideal if you're a Penn State fan. But again, you don't ever apologize for a win, especially over a ranked top 20 Illinois. I need to see them go score for score against USC. Like, that to me is the deal. I think that could be a a playoff penthouse deciding game. Not 100% sure. I don't want to promise something and then have that not be the case the following week. I don't want to say USC, if they win, they're in the penthouse. Penn State, if they beat USC, they're in the penthouse. I don't know. However, we're going to learn a lot about Penn State and the offensive firepower. Because if you can go score for score with the Lincoln Riley offense, that tells me a lot about the chops for Penn State and how they could look against an Ohio State, how they could look should they make the college football playoff. So remains to be seen, but Penn State right now in the lobby. Now, who's also in the lobby is Michigan. Yep, Michigan. JD, they didn't look that great against Minnesota. I know. JD, they got throttled by Texas. I understand. I get it, but guess what? They have one loss. Only one loss. The path ahead for them, at Illinois, Oregon. Hey, here's a sneaky one, at Indiana. Just saying. And then at Ohio State. If I'm a Michigan fan, yeah, we're throwing for less than 100 yards right now under Alex Orji. It is what it is. Now, you did double, though, your passing total, or more than doubled that. You went from 30-plus yards against USC to in the 80s against Minnesota. If I'm a Michigan fan, hey, I ain't hear no bell. We're still here. We're still swinging. The road is difficult, but Michigan with one loss, they're definitely still in the college football playoff hunt. Got them in the lobby this week. Now, if I'm Clemson, I'm feeling pretty good about what I've done offensively over the course of the last few weeks. They just 40-piece Stanford. They scored almost 60 the week before, and then before that they did score 60 or over 60 against App State. Clemson doesn't play Miami. They have Louisville. They're at Va-Tech. They got South Carolina. And, y'all, the defense is going to keep them in every single game. Like, this is the defense you always sign up for if you're a Clemson fan. This is very familiar. However, the offense, with Garrett Riley starting to open it up a little bit, Cade Klubnik kind of getting it rolling, yards per pass is somewhere in the 8s. Like, they're explosive right now, and that's what you need if you're Clemson. That's what we've been asking for if you're Clemson. Clemson could very easily, I think, make the ACC title game with that one loss being to Georgia. Let's say they don't win the ACC title. I think attending to Clemson with a loss to an ACC champ, call it Miami, and then a loss to Georgia, who I think is still going to have a case to be one of the best teams in college football. I think Clemson could find themselves in the dance if they finish 11-1 in the regular season. So keep an eye on Clemson. One more team here to talk about in the lobby, just hanging out. They're not checking out. They're not leaving. They're just sort of hanging around and trying that weird cucumber water that a lot of hotels have. I don't know. I don't really get that, but I'm here for it. Ole Miss. They're not done. They still got LSU. They have Georgia. They need to split those two, in my opinion. I'm not so sure that what we saw from them against Kentucky isn't just a product of two things. One, haven't played anybody with the pulse. It's tough to go from that to playing a gritty physical outfit in Kentucky. And then the other part, I think that when you lean on the portal as heavily as Lane Kiffin does, live by the sword, die by the sword to some respects. Like, it takes a second, I think, for teams to totally gel from a personnel perspective. And so this team in late October and November, as things start to ramp up, I wouldn't count them out. I think what they have on the line of scrimmage is for real. I think as soon as they reach their cruising altitude, they're going to be a force. So keep an eye on Ole Miss. I think they are very much so still hanging around on the bubble, but nonetheless, those teams for me right now are in the lobby of hotel playoff. So that's the penthouse. It's the lobby. Who's waiting on a reservation? Who's maybe on the outside looking in, so to speak? I think LSU is the first team that comes to mind. They still have some meat on the bone now. They're going to host Ole Miss. They're going to host Alabama. And they're going to host Oklahoma. So in some ways, you're like, okay, great. They all got to come to Death Valley. That's awesome. However, the order there to get into the college football playoff is I need a nice little 2-1 piece, right? I need you to go 2-1 against that stretch. Because if you go 9-3, I don't think you're making the playoff. Now, the benefit here also for LSU, it should be noted, they get a whole week. They're on a bye. They get a whole week to prep for Ole Miss. You give Brian Kelly a week. People are going to get in the comment section and talk about, his first game of the season every year, and that's fine. But I'm just saying I would keep an eye on LSU. I think they may be one of those teams that everyone's just kind of written off. They said, they're dead. Don't worry about them. But LSU now with one loss, especially the way that loss continues to trend with USC playing well, waiting on a reservation, but they're still in the hunt here. Now, speaking of teams that we thought were dead and people thought were dead, myself included, now I'll put my hand up. I thought they would lose to Louisville. Notre Dame, just still kicking, baby. Still kicking. If they win out, people don't want to say this, people don't want to acknowledge this. If they win out, they're in the college football playoff. Is that loss ugly? 100%. Will it be tough to look at? No way around it. But 11-1 with a win over USC, if that were the case, with a win over Louisville, who's in the teens when they beat them, that would be massive. I think the resume now is starting to put itself together. It'd be counterintuitive, but again, the new college football is, unless you hear a bell, you're still in it. Now, here's one that's waiting on a reservation that I don't think I was on alert for until yesterday, talking to a friend of mine. Iowa. Are they the favorite to win the Big Ten? Nope. Are they 3-1 with a very manageable schedule still left? Absolutely. Look at who they have left here. They're at Ohio State, Washington, at Michigan State, Northwestern, Wisconsin, at UCLA, at Maryland, and Nebraska. Okay, so if the only loss you have there is to Ohio State, that would be impressive now, because that means you're beating Nebraska, means you're beating Wisconsin, means you're beating Washington. Like, there's some things to be looked at there. You're 10-2 in your Iowa. I don't think it's a lock you make it the college football playoff, but especially if Iowa State, if they end up being the Big 12 champ, and we'll talk about the Big 12 here in a second, a loss to Ohio State and the Big 12 champ, like, I'm just saying, I would keep a pulse on what Iowa's doing, because that schedule the rest of the way here is pretty manageable. Now, I wasn't sure how to go about this for our last, I guess, sector of who's waiting on a reservation. I just think that the Big 12 is waiting on a reservation, because I think Kansas State is the pick right now for me to win the Big 12. But you know, the teams that are in the hunt right now, it is ridiculous. You got Iowa State, who we just spoke to, Oklahoma State. I wouldn't count them out. Utah, I had them in the playoff penthouse not but a week ago. BYU, heck, I'll say this, Colorado doesn't have a Big 12 loss either. Now, would they be my pick to rep the Big 12 in the college football playoff in terms of, like, if I were calling it today? No. But I'm just saying, like, you just get us to Jerry World, we could have a team that finishes the regular season, call it 9-3, they win the conference, and they find themselves with a first-round bye in the college football playoff. I'm just saying. And I'll say this too, that conversation in and of itself probably makes you understand why the Big Ten and the SEC is saying, hey, we should have maybe like a few more automatic bids. I get it. But the Big 12, man, that is one of the most entertaining, if not the most entertaining, conference in all of college football. So that's who's waiting on a resi. Let's go to the G5. Because, again, the G5 is like, if we're talking about hotel playoff, like, the G5 is like that restaurant next door that plays loud music, serves great food. It's a loose environment. It's a laid-back environment, and, like, they're just having a good time. UNLV, I said it, I think they might be America's team. I know you lose Matthew Sluka. It's a very public NIL situation, and, again, I'll say this too. I think the agent's probably at fault there. You don't get something in writing. I digress. They got the program. Syracuse, Friday night. I believe they're hosting Syracuse as well. So we'll learn a lot about UNLV this week. But if you beat Syracuse, would it hurt my heart a little bit? Sure. Would it bolster UNLV's resume without their previously starting quarterback? Now they got Haj Malik Williams spinning it for them. Keep an eye on UNLV, man. G5 party is rolling. I think UNLV is right there at the front of it. Boise State, also right there at the front of it. They will eventually play UNLV in the Mountain West. Only lost to Oregon. Had a massive win over Washington State this past weekend. Ashton Genty, he's absolutely in my Heisman conversation. He's my number 4 pick right now behind Travis Hunter, Jalen Milroe, Cam Ward. That could change. But Boise State, they're a wagon. Keep an eye on them. A 3-point loss to Oregon should not disqualify you. I don't think it does disqualify them by any stretch of the imagination, especially if they win the Mountain West. If anything, I think it helps them. Liberty, still undefeated. James Madison, yeah, that same James Madison team that 70-pieced UNC. Yeah, I think they're probably in that G5 party discussion. Here's one for you. I hesitated to put them on this graphic, but Memphis, if they win the American, I understand they lost to Navy, but they still play at USF. If they win the American, I think there's a case for them to be the G5 rep. Now, will that happen? Probably need to win out. Probably, like I said, need to win the American, but keep an eye on Memphis. That win over Florida State, is it aging great? Not exactly, but still, won your Power 4 game, and I think you give them the adequate attention for doing that. So, that is our first trip to hotel playoff. I liked it. I liked it a lot. It was way better than playoff tiers in my opinion. But to break it down here, here's the lay of the land here across our hotel playoff. You got the playoff penthouse with Alabama, best team in America for my money right now. Georgia, Ohio State, Kansas State, the only predicted team in this group right now because I think they're going to win the Big 12, so we'll put them in the playoff penthouse right now. Miami, they're rolling. Texas, also rolling into a bye week. They got SEC life after the bye, though, with Oklahoma, who they always play regardless, and then they'll obviously host Georgia. And then Tennessee. Tennessee now, I think they could be one of those teams where, I said it before, they could be the team that you feel good about bringing back to your family because they might be the one. They might be the one if you're a Tennessee fan. In the lobby, kind of on the bubble for us, Oregon, Missouri, USC, Penn State, Michigan, Clemson, still hanging around. I know everyone thought they were dead after the loss to Georgia. They're still hanging around. Ole Miss, same deal. You lost to Kentucky. A lot of meat on the bone for them still. They could find their way into the dance, especially if they finish the season 10-2, with that only other loss being to Georgia. But we'll see. Waiting on a resi as of right now. Waiting on a reservation. LSU, Notre Dame, Iowa. Iowa's 3-1. I'll just say it. Iowa could be in the dance there. A Big 12 team, whether it be Iowa State, Oklahoma State, Utah, BYU. Just get us to Jerry World is what I'm telling my team. Just get us to Jerry World. We win that game. We're dancing. And we're dancing with a first-round bye. In the G5, you got UNLV, USF probably could be in there as well. You want to talk about USF. Boise State, Liberty, James Madison, and I'm not ready to write off Memphis just yet either when it comes to this discussion.